Griffin Gall, TRAYVIS. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Rebels Revisited. We are in the home stretch of Season 1 now. This is exciting. So let's get started. This is A Vision of Hope Revisited. The episode opens with a training session. I like that the whole crew gets involved with it. It really contributes to them feeling like a family, and I like getting to see how they're involved in each other's lives outside of missions and the war. Sabine and Zeb may not be Force sensitive or even understand the Force that well at all, but they love Kanan and Ezra, and they're all a part of a family, so they're willing to help them out with the training. It's the little things like this that I really appreciate on this show. It really rounds out the characters' lives and makes them more relatable, I think. Okay, I like getting to see Ezra progress in his training because it's so hard for him. I like that we get to see that he's grown. In this scene, we can see that he can block pretty well, which he couldn't before, but he can't aim the ricocheted shots. We know he had to work hard just to get blocking down, and we watch him struggle to get the hang of a new skill. I like that we see that struggle. I like that Ezra is strong with the Force, but that doesn't make him immediately good at everything. Force sensitivity allows Ezra access to special skills, but he has to work really hard to cultivate these skills. Characters aren't always written like that, Anyway, so the crew goes to listen to Gall TRAYVIS's message, which has coded language revealing bits of information such as places to meet. I like that Ezra's knowledge as like a local or a native to Lothal helps him figure out the code. It reminds me that like each member of the crew, they all have different backgrounds and different bits of knowledge because of it. Like, the home world of each character obviously affects them in big ways, but realistically these home worlds would also be a part of their lives in smaller ways, more casual ways, as shown here with Ezra. Like, I'm not explaining this right. Like, your hometown shapes you as a person, right? But let's say someone visits your hometown and they ask you where to eat, you can just recommend a pizza place, which is a more casual part of your relationship to where you're from. And I like that this line for Ezra sort of illustrates the same sort of thing for him, Does that make sense? The writers didn't have to use the fact that Ezra has a casual local knowledge about Lothal, but they did, and I feel like a lot of what the writers choose to include is very deliberate, so I took note of this. This little inclusion it's a way to round out Ezra and make him feel realistic. It's the little things that really do it, And I like how it contributes to our perception of Lothal's culture. A famous mural may be a small detail, but it's the small details that make fictional worlds feel real to us. Again, it's the little things that do it. Okay, with this whole vision situation, my heart goes out to both Ezra and Kanan here. Like, poor Ezra is going to get his heart broken, but he's too naive or stubborn and desperate to slow down and listen to Kanan about how tricky visions are. Like, I have such a need for Ezra to be happy, and stuff like this just kills me. On the other hand, I feel for Kanan because he knows that Ezra is about to get his heart broken, but there's just not much he can do about it. Like, Ezra won't let go of what this vision could mean for him, and he's going to have to learn the hard way about the deceptiveness of visions. And I know that Kanan cares too much about Ezra at this point for him to just be okay with that. We know from multiple points in the series that one of Kanan's greatest worries is not being able to protect Ezra, and this is a situation where Ezra's own stubbornness is preventing Kanan from protecting him. And yeah, it's important that Ezra learns his lesson the hard way, and I think Kanan knows that, but I imagine it's still a painful brand of frustrating, It was so nice to see Zare. It's a shame that he never returned to the show. I know he had his own thing going, and I haven't read it, so I don't know, but it might have made it hard for him to, logically come back to Rebels, but I feel like they could have made it work. I don't know. I just think he's an interesting character, and I wish we saw more of him. Iconic moment.
The Imperials will have numbers.
We'll have surprise.
What gives you that idea?
I'm being optimistic.
Yeah. Here it is, guys, one of my favorite Chopper the Murder Droid moments. First, he murders a droid. Then, he tries to murder Kanan about 5 seconds later. That is a double kill attempt. What an icon. Just want to throw it out there. I love this crew. I love the dynamic, love the bond, love the banter. I just love them. Just had to throw it out there. Just had to say it. Okay, I thought this was funny. Callus was the first person to say, Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight. I feel like that's kind of an iconic phrase from the series at this point, between the Bendu kind of fondly mocking Kanan with it and Freddie Prinze Jr. having it in his Twitter bio for a bit. It feels like a phrase, you know, and it's funny that Callus was the first one to say it before Kanan was even a Jedi Knight. Also, I appreciate the Padawan Jabba. You know, what a fun little callback to Spark of Rebellion. I love it when this show references or brings back little things that happened in earlier episodes. I just think it's fun. Okay, so TRAYVIS sucks, for the record. I like how they foreshadow his betrayal by making him bad at being a fugitive. It was a smart way to go about it, because you have to connect the dots yourself. It makes sense, because if he were a true rebel, he'd be used to running, and since he's not good at running away from the Imperials, you know, it's up to us to now make that connection between, oh, something's up here, because he should be just fine with running away. Also, it makes sense because it's a strategic move to slow the rebels down that, you know, we could catch on to, and obviously Hera points that out later. So the clue is very clearly there, but they don't just spoon feed us the answer before the reveal. And I thought that was a clever way to go about the plot twist. And now the plot twist. Ezra hurts me here.
Why?
Ouch. I hate how TRAYVIS speaks with this sort of respect for the Bridgers just to mess with Ezra. Like, it makes me so angry. I don't know. He calls them the original voices of freedom, and he calls them brave, and like, no. He doesn't get to mess with Ezra like that. I hate it. I also hate the part where they're talking about Ezra's parents and the line goes, they're gone. They're not gone. Because they're not gone at the moment, but literally right after the next episode, they die. And Ezra has no idea. And we have no idea. And it's just sad. It just really kills me how much pain this whole TRAYVIS being a fake thing caused Ezra. Look at him in the back. Look at how much pain he's in. So glad Hera knocked this nerf herder out. That's the only thing he deserves. Okay, the ending. I love the ending. I find the little lesson at the end interesting. Here's how the conversation goes.
You always say I should trust the Force. I thought that's what I was doing.
Your emotions clouded the vision. It takes
Training and discipline?
to see things clearly, yes. Visions are difficult, almost impossible to interpret.
First off, I love how Kanan is pretty conversational here and even kneels down so he's not talking down to Ezra. As for the lesson itself, it's interesting that they actually bring up the question of why does this not count as trusting the Force? Because it makes clear how the Force is a complex concept. Ezra felt like he was trusting his instincts or trusting in the Force, but using the Force requires more nuance than Ezra realizes. The Force is incredibly interesting to me. It's so dynamic and so complex. I think it's so interesting. Okay, so there's this little exchange that goes, "What was the last vision you had? I saw this bratty kid that constantly caused me trouble," which could be a joke, but what if it's not? What if Kanan actually had a vision about Ezra and he meditated on it, and that's what drew him to offer to train Ezra? I know we're leaving analysis territory and entering into headcanon territory with this, but hear me out. If you go back and watch Spark of Rebellion, the Force was very clearly involved with Kanan and Ezra meeting and teaming up. They used a music cue and everything. Force was completely involved. And I think Kanan training Ezra was like literally the will of the Force. Like it was a part of Kanan's role in the Force, which I am not just pulling that out of nowhere. They touch on it in the season 4 episode Kindred, so... Also, it just doesn't make sense that Kanan would offer to teach Ezra completely of his own volition, because we know how insecure he felt about it. In Path of the Jedi, he literally admits that he was unsure about his decision to become a teacher. So, like, because he was so insecure about it, I don't think that he would just offer to train this kid. It doesn't make sense. What does make sense is that he had a vision, and this carefully meditated on vision pushed him to take Ezra as a student. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Alright guys, now this moment right here, a favorite.
Yeah, what's wrong with us?
We have hope. Hope that things can get better. And they will.
It's one of the more popular quotes from Rebels, but the oft-overlooked setup makes it even better. The quote itself is beautiful, but it's an answer to the question, what's wrong with us? I kind of love that. It's like, hope can hurt you, as they just learned. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, hope in reality is the worst of all evils because it prolongs the torments of man. This is sort of playing with that concept, I think. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek answer on Hera's part. She's acknowledging that many would find it foolish or naive to hope in times like these. She's kind of joking and saying that hope is what's wrong with them. There's a self-awareness about how crazy their goal is and how there's a mountain of odds against them. But by having hope, the rebels are throwing their hands up and yelling, "Screw you" at the galaxy. In a dark, cruel galaxy, the act of having hope in itself is an act of rebellion. She's saying, the universe may tell us that we're wrong to have hope, but we're going to keep hoping anyway, and that's why they win. Oh god, I'm gonna start getting all mushy with my "they won the war because of love" tomfoolery again. That's how we're gonna win, not by fighting what we hate. Before I physically morph into Rose Tico, I'm going to end this. Oh my god, I'm even wearing a Last Jedi shirt. This looks planned, I promise. This literally wasn't planned. This was actually just, this is one of the only Star Wars shirts I haven't worn in a video yet, so I just happened to be wearing it. This is it. This is the video that gets me cancelled. Go ahead, bully me, whatever. Okay, I'm cutting myself off now. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.